The Notorious B.I.3 erupts for 37 points as the Raptors beat the Cavs, make it 8 in a row. Let's go to the film room.
The only thing that's originally filmed is that and I've studied older films and tried to figure out how I got that impression. I was getting knees right in the cutting room.
The unique thing about film is an art form
exactly.
is the editing.
After tonight's game, Brandon Ingram is shooting 44% from three in his last 5 games. A lot of those opportunities from behind the arc come off the catch like this one. See, the pick and roll is here, and watch how Jalen Tyson is disrespecting Brandon Ingram, truthfully, at this point, completely helping off of Ingram. And this is a great opportunity for BI to show off that he can knock down these shots consistently. He was a 37% catch and shoot player in New Orleans for over 7 seasons. He can knock these down consistently. And they just kept feeding him. Wide open here, above the break 3. Really a great sign that he's knocking those down. It's even better when he can get into his pull-up bag, and in clutch situations, the Raptors leaned on BI once again to score in isolation situations. Now he's on Naquan Tomlin, and you know, the Cavs didn't send too much help. As we've seen in the past in clutch situations, teams were starting to double Ingram, and he just made them pay. So here, beautiful step back, sidestep 3. And this is why the off-the-catch shooting is so important. So watch how hard Tomlin closeouts here, and this allows him to step back, get into a pretty easy mid-range shot. Easy by Brandon Ingram standards. I've mentioned this before, but they are so good at working off of screens, and a lot of that has to do... I've mentioned this before, but the Raptors are so good at scoring off of screens, and a lot of that has to do with Brandon Ingram. They've done a great job, the Raptors have, of setting up Ingram in the spots that he desires the ball. He's elite in this area of the floor right here, especially the mid-range area. And so what they do is they have him curling off of this pin down screen from Mamu. He just curls off of it, gets separation, bang. Similar situation for him here. They're trying to work to get him in the post area. It's a brush screen by Quick. And again, this provides options, right? Quick can pop out here if the defense decides to switch or miscommunicates switch. But that creates also a sliver of space for BI to be able to push his defender, which is Lonzo Ball in this situation, off of his spot. And again, this is a shot only like 10 players in the NBA can knock down consistently. Brandon Ingram is one of those players. Incredible shot. And of course, the ISO bag was awesome. Again, empty side situation in isolation, takes Naquan Tomlin downhill, even engages the help in Larry Nance, and somehow steps back and knocks down this shot. Tough shot maker, Brandon Ingram. Now this one in a pick and roll with Scotty, they get the switch and it's Thomas Bryant on him. So at this point, especially in the middle of the floor, there's tons of help, right? Jalen Tyson is helping off of Jacoby Walter. You know, Naquan Tomlin is making sure to show here as well. And so they're definitely going to pinch in to not allow Brandon Ingram to explode to the basket. But it doesn't matter because Brandon Ingram is cooking from the mid-range area. That was a masterclass performance by Notorious B.I.3 as we welcome you inside the film room. The Raptors make it 8 in a row, and they look awesome. They beat a Cavaliers team that once again was undermanned. No Jared Allen, no Darius Garland, no Sam Merrill, no DeAndre Hunter, no Max Strus. But it doesn't matter. You play who's in front of you. And I apologize, by the way, if my voice is a little thing. I think I am getting sick. Kind of felt it on my way back from the game. And I'm like, oh no, I'm getting sick. This sucks. Regardless, we must carry on. Folks, if you're rocking with me, make sure to like and subscribe to the Raptors Republic YouTube channel. We appreciate you guys rocking with us. As always, we've been cooking this year. Shout out to Pull Up Trey. I believe if you're listening to this after 11 in the morning, the day after the Cavs win, Pull Up Trey is out, so you should go and watch them as well. It was an awesome game from Brandon Ingram, who looked like the Brandon Ingram that I watched in New Orleans. You know, I think back to the Sun series where he was awesome, and I think back to some of the playing games that I've seen. I think back to watching him in his most improved and all-star season. And really, this was the Brandon Ingram that I know and I appreciate. The mid-range scoring has been elite. You know, I believe he was at 60% at some point in the season. That's come down now, but he's basically in the top 5 in mid-range efficiency. And the way that he's able to compound that with his playmaking and how successful the Raptors have been in delivering it to him in spots that he likes, that pinch post area, working off of screens to catch it in the middle of the floor. Very, very great job by the Raptors coaching staff to maximize what Brandon Ingram is good at. And they're really leaning in on this to be, the offensive engine for the Raptors, especially in half-court settings. Once again, this was a close game for a little bit in that fourth quarter. Entering the 5-minute mark of the fourth quarter, it was technically a clutch situation because the Raptors were up 4. That didn't last for long. The Cavs went scoreless. It was 99-103, I believe, when Donovan Mitchell hit back-to-back threes to cut the Raptors' lead. The Raptors called the timeout, and the Cavs didn't score again. They did not score again. Now, part of that is just ill-advised shot taking from the Cavaliers. Mitchell forced a couple. There was a really good defensive possession by Brandon Ingram on Evan Mobley. We'll get into some of the defensive stuff in a second, but it really was Ingram who just was massive as a scorer. The sidestep threes, I'm not going to lie to you, he was hunting for his 40 ball. He got to 35, 36, and he was like, okay, I got to go for 40, especially with the game out the way. But he was very surgical in this game. And, I asked him post-game, I was there for the Athletic NBA Daily, and I asked him post-game, I'm like, man, like you've mentioned a couple times that you still don't feel 100%. Like, was this one of those nights where it felt like, okay, I'm getting there? And he just said it's more about timing. Like, he's figuring out how to attack seams of the offense, find his pockets offensively, and really get used to the Raptors system. And part of why the Raptors system has been so, I guess, cordial for Brandon Ingram to adopt is because they are incorporating a lot of sets that maximize what BI does. And so that's why you get performances like tonight. Performances like tonight were regular for BI in New Orleans. He actually scored, what was it? I think he scored like 37 or 40 against the Raptors. And that was the last time that he scored that many points. It was very, very impressive to watch him tonight. That is the version of Brandon Ingram that becomes an all-star for this Raptors team. And that's the version of Brandon Ingram that they'll require as they head into an easier or a harder stretch of their schedule in December and in January. Let's talk about the defense, because I thought, for the most part, the Raptors did a good job against Donovan Mitchell, who, let me double check what Mitchell ended up with here. If I can get the box score out quickly. Mitchell ended up with 17 points on 6 of 20 shooting. Now, he entered the fourth quarter with just 7 points. He scored, again, like I mentioned, back-to-back threes. He was feeling himself a little bit in the fourth quarter, really trying to will the Cavs to get back into this ball game. But the Raptors did a good job of using their length around him, shading him on drives, and just making things difficult. So let's break down some defense against Donovan Mitchell. It's worth noting, by the way, no RJ Barrett tonight, so Jacoby Walter steps in as the starter. I sort of hinted at that in the Brooklyn Nets game last night, where I said it's likely that Jacoby ends up being the starter just because of how much trust they've inputted, how much they've entrusted him to be that first guy off the bench, the guy guarding the opposing best player. And while Jacoby had a pretty quiet night offensively, 2 of 8, 5 points, he got in foul trouble too. He ended up with 4 fouls. A part of that was the fact that he was the main guy guarding Donovan Mitchell, and then surrounding Jacoby was a ton of length and athleticism that made things hard on Mitchell throughout the game. So let's break down some of the defense from the Raptors. Donovan Mitchell is great at splitting these double teams and getting downhill. He is so elite at doing that. But watch how many bodies he sees immediately at the rim. It's Brandon Ingram. It's Scotty Barnes. They're completely disrespecting Evan Mobley and saying, you can take this shot if you'd like to. But D-Mitch is now seeing tons of bodies. And also Jamal Shead here on the weak side, ready to attack in terms of a steal as well. So this length made Mitchell second guess for a second. Sidestep, good contest, miss. Again, watch as they completely help off of Mobley. So Jakob shades this drive by Donovan Mitchell. And look at Jacoby doing a great job of keeping his hands away from, an area where Donovan Mitchell can try and draw a foul. Step back, and a good job with that contest as well from Jacoby. This was a great defensive possession by Brandon Ingram, who, if you look at it, they get the switch onto BI. Mitchell wants to attack this, and just a great job of using his length and staying with him defensively, laterally. That was really impressive by Brandon. Once again, Jacoby fighting around the screen for Mobley, staying with him and contesting, forcing Mitchell into a fadeaway in that mid-range area. And that is the defense that you saw on Donovan Mitchell. Now, again, some of that was shot selection. If you go back and watch the fourth quarter, Mitchell was really trying to will this team back. And so some of the shots that he took, you're like, all right, man, I guess this is what we're doing tonight, But the Raptors did do a good job of containing him, especially because the Cavs didn't have their usual weapons, right? They were trusting, the Naquan Tomlins of the world. And Naquan, I like Naquan Tomlin, by the way. Good, athletic anomaly who attacks the basket with ferociousness, and he knocked down a couple threes tonight, which was bizarre to say the least. But this isn't the regular Cavs supporting cast, right? He didn't have that regular floor spacing dynamic, right? It was Evan Mobley in the corner. It was Larry Nance in the corner. It was Lonzo Ball in the corner, or Jalen Tyson. It wasn't Sam Merrill. It wasn't DeAndre Hunter. It wasn't Darius Garland. It wasn't Max Strus. These are all guys who are like elite shooters, guys who can really knock down their threes. And the Cavs didn't have that release valve. And so it was good on the Raptors to really lean in on forcing Mitchell to take a bunch of tough shots, because that was the way that the Cavs were trying to win that game. That is why the Cavs really struggled offensively tonight. 99 points. They limited the Cavs to 99 points. And again, like I said, they didn't score for like the last 5 minutes of that game. Want to also talk about Jamal Shead, who continues to be just a massive piece for this Raptors team off of the bench. This time, 7 assists and 1 turnover tonight. Shead, over his last 5 games, against Brooklyn, he had 9 assists, 1 turnover. Against Washington, 10 assists, 0 turnovers. Against Philly, 6 assists, 1 turnover. Against Charlotte, 4 assists, 1 turnover. Against Charlotte, it was 3 turnovers. Against Indiana, 4 assists, 0 turnovers. For the most part, the guy does an excellent job of taking care of the ball. I think a lot of that has to do with, one, he makes a lot of simple reads. And that's not a knock on him. That's actually like, I was telling Dave, who is my co-host for the Athletic NBA Daily, that like Shead just makes the simple reads. And he's such a traditional point guard in the sense that he wants to get his teammates involved. He plays with pace. He's fast, so he leans into the identity that the Raptors want. But at the same time, he makes the correct reads. He's not trying to force the issue in terms of his playmaking. And I think the fact that he is a pass-first point guard really illuminates the unselfish nature of what Jamal does. With the weapons around him, right? With the scoring options, with the BIs of the world, with the Quickleys of the world, with the Scotties and RJ once he gets back of the world, it just allows a guy like that to be a facilitator. There's no pressure on Jamal Shead to be a scorer. And that's why those double guard lineups work really well, because, and they've said this multiple times. I can't imagine. The Quickly and Shead thing has been asked by the media ad nauseum. There are a lot of people who were asking about the Shead Quickly guard lineups. And tonight, again, they close with Jamal Shead instead of Jacoby Walter. One, they're entrusting a lot in Shead to be that guy. But two, those minutes, the Raptors are dominating. They are winning those minutes by a lot. Part of that is because, one, Shead is unselfish. Shead is quick. Shead can guard. And on top of that, it allows Quickly to be more of a scorer, more of an off-ball player, more of a catch-and-shoot guy. It doesn't necessarily force Quickly to be as much of a playmaker. That's why those lineups thrive. And so let's talk about Jamal. Let's break down some of these cool passes that he had last night. 7 assists. I thought 3 of them were really nice. So here we go. Off of the catch, attacks the closeout, gets into the teeth of the defense, and a really, really great cut. Backdoor cut by Mamu from the corner to the dunker spot, recognizing the drive, recognizing that Jamal Shead wants to pass, a nice dump off, and a nice finish by Mamu. I'm a real big fan of Shead in transition. He's just so fast. I watched this play live and I'm like, man, he is insanely quick. Great job of engaging the help in Evan Mobley and giving the room for Mamu to cut backdoor in the dunker spot. And also a really great pass over top of the defense here. Again, off of the catch, tilted defense. He attacks, gets into the paint. Nice kick out pass to Mamu for the three. And so the connection that those two have developed is tremendous. The fast nature that the Raptors bench plays with really gives them an identity and a style that they can adhere to. And the Raptors look good, folks. They took care of business tonight against a undermanned Cavaliers team. They've won 8 in a row. They were the number one half-court offense this morning. I imagine that stays that way after tonight's games. They are second in the Eastern Conference. Their defense is getting better and climbing the rankings as well. They're a top 10 offense. And this team looks legit, man. Look, I know there's going to be people who are saying, like, they got to play better competition. We got to see them against a Western Conference team. I've seen that YouTube comment a couple times. And that's valid, man. You know, like, they haven't played a Western Conference team since November 2nd, and that was the Memphis Grizzlies. They've played, 4 Western Conference teams. They lost to the Mavs, lost to the Spurs, lost to the Rockets, beat the Grizzlies, you know? And that was when they were really going through it with their defensive struggles, playing way too aggressively. I think they're a better defensive team than they are now. Oh, they are a better defensive team than they were then. So I get what y'all are saying about the easy schedule, but you also have to take care of business. And it's worth noting that, like, taking care of business right now allows you to head into the tougher stretches of your schedule with a bit of a cushion to figure out, okay, cool. You know, we have, let's see, in December they play, you know, the Blazers, the Lakers, they play the Celtics a couple times, they play the Bucks, maybe Giannis is back by then. The end of December, they play the Warriors, Magic, and Nuggets. Like, yeah, these are very good teams, good teams, good competitive teams. This will be good for this Raptors team. But as I mentioned at the start of this win streak, you can build your foundation against bad teams. You can figure out what works, what doesn't work, what lineups work. You can really have free money through beating these bad teams. And they've been fortunate or less fortunate, depending on how you want to look at it, to have been in some close games. I think about, you know, that Hornets game, the Sixers game, this game to a lesser extent, you know, the Cavs game before this. They've had the opportunity to play in some close games. And I think that will help them inevitably when things get a little bit tighter against better defensive teams. I'm actually excited to see it. I'm excited to see how this Raptors team, with a fully formed identity, an identity that they've woven together over this last month, goes out and faces a harder schedule. Because I think they now have the confidence in what they're doing, and they are winning. So there is more leeway to figuring out how to beat these other teams. Just mentally, I think that's the case. You know, it's simple in the sense that, like, they feel comfortable playing the way that they are. Everybody seems extremely bought in to the way that they want to play, the style that they want to play. I thought Darko Rajakovic had a great quote about playing for one another and why their chemistry is ahead of schedule. And then post-game, Brandon Ingram praised Darko for being the leader of this group and enabling them to play the way that they want to play. So it seems like this group is harnessing the power of friendship, but they are also harnessing the power of, like, this egalitarian offense. And I know tonight wasn't necessarily the case. You know, Brandon Ingram goes off for 37. No one else really dominated on the offensive end. Scotty had some good moments, etc. But for the most part, this Raptors team is something that is the sum of its parts, right? Whatever you want to call it, they just punch above weight because of their depth, because of their skill level, because of their style and identity. And, you know, when they were on their 1-4 streak, I was mentioning how I kind of joked about this, like, bad teams lose because they don't have an identity. Teams who are better than their record win games, or teams that are better record-wise than their actual skill win games because they have an identity. And I think the Raptors have the skill, they have the talent, but they also now have the identity to be able to go out and win games that way. And that they did while beating a bunch of easy teams. So I don't think we can just throw all this away. I think that's silly. I don't think the Raptors are throwing all this away. I think they're staying very even-keeled because they understand they're taking advantage of an easy schedule. But at the same time, this gave you the foundation for which you can go ahead and approach the rest of the season. Folks, as always, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do those things that you guys usually do to make sure this video and others get out to, everybody else who's interested in Raptors stuff. Appreciate you as always. We'll see you for the next one, which is Wednesday. Oh, you know what? I should note, I may or may not be able to get a film room out on Wednesday. I purchased tickets to go see Leon Thomas months before the schedule was released, and unfortunately it fell on this Wednesday game. So I will try to get a film room out, potentially. I will not be able to watch the game live. If I cannot get a film room out, I will see you guys on Saturday for the Charlotte Hornets. As always, we will see you guys later. Peace. Bye-bye.